Welcome back. I'm going to do a structured gel manicure from product removal to prep to product application. When we think about the perfect duos, peas and carrots, peanut butter and jelly, cracker and cheese, what better than structured gel and dry mani? It's a match made in heaven. Check out the link too if you guys want to shop the products that I'm using in the video, but let's go. So these are my client's nails. They are 4 weeks grown out. I currently have Luminary as my base. So what I'm just doing right now is I'm taking my medium smooth top Violet Carbide, and I am just taking down the apex as well as my color. So I prefer to use a method called the dragging method, where I keep my bit horizontal. Okay, horizontal means this direction flat to the nail, and I'm just pulling the product. So I'm just pulling the color down. Take as much as you feel comfortable off with the carbide and then switch to your sanding band or your diamond bit. Maneuvering your client's hand is really important. Think about how you're moving your body position and how you can change that up and just move your client. So I'm going to go ahead and show you that right here. I have this edge right here. Instead of me changing my whole body position, what I'm just going to do is take my client's hand and rotate it so I can keep my shoulders parallel. So wherever it's still attached, so right here, this area, I'm going to go up. I don't want to start at this edge because that's when it'll do that and scare you and your client. Just right where the nail's still attached, that's where we go up. Where it's not attached, that's where we're going to pull down. But see how I was able to keep my shoulders parallel that whole time? Super important. So when it comes to removal, you want to be at about 10 minutes. If you're at 15 minutes, that's okay. If you're more than 15 minutes with whatever product you're using, you're definitely going to want to switch things up. So whether that's working with a different product, maybe it's just time to replace your bits. Is anything past 15 minutes is too long, even for those soft gel tips or dip. So I have removed as much color as I feel comfortable. I'm now going in with my flip cylinder at about 9,000 RPMs, and I'm just going to remove any lifting that's over here in the lateral fold. This is diamond, so it works in both directions. Also going to just very lightly prep that regrowth area. Not going to spend a lot of time there because I am going to go in with my cuticle bits. And I'm always usually going to start with my medium, so I can also prep with that tool as well. I just don't want to be using my cuticle bits to also be removing product. That's just a really bad habit to get into. And let's be honest, we don't need any more bad habits. Honestly, if you are using your cuticle bits to remove product or lifting, they're not going to last as long. They're just meant to remove dead tissue, not lifted product, okay? So I got a little bit of lifting right there. And how does this feel? How does everything feel?
It feels fine.
Awesome. It's very gentle. And even if you're new to e-filing and you're really scared of using a carbide, that's okay. Just go as far as you feel comfortable. Maybe that's just removing right in the center. We've done removal. There's no lifting. So sometimes when people see them lumpy bumpy like this, right, from like the little blades from removing the product, is they want to get a buffer and start buffing that out. Stop right there. Remember, this is a structured gel manicure, so if it's a little lumpy bumpy and you can see some ruts, it doesn't have to be even because I'm going to apply new product. And what's nice about structured gel manicure is it has a thicker viscosity, so I'm able to build with it. So I don't need to do that step with any kind of buffing. Keep moving the surface forward. Now I'm going to go ahead and do my cuticle work. Just pushing back, releasing that cuticle right off of the natural nail. I don't need to scrape these dead skin cells. I'm going to allow my e-file to sweep those all away. In the forward direction with the unicorn, I'm at 10,000 RPMs. And I'm sweeping, allowing the tool to do the work for me. You can do the same motion at the same speed with the micro taper or with the safety skiver. There's a lot of different tools just depending on what you personally like, but also what your client's nails need. So anyone with like that really deep lateral fold, I'm going to want something with more of a point. Someone with more overgrown cuticle, that's when I'm going to use something with a flat top. And for somebody who just feels like a little more cautious, or maybe on one of my elderly clients or thinner cuticles, that's when I would use something like the safety skiver. Okay, I'm just going to spray a little bit of alcohol. See what we're working with. So I want to get in there a little more so that I can create more of a pocket. So I'm in here with my nib. I started it off at 5,000 RPMs, but I can tell that this is going to be too low. So I'm going to bump it up to 8. And you can just kind of tell how the skin's being pulled. I don't want the skin to pull into rib. I want it to be exfoliating. So if you find that it is pulling the skin, that usually just means that you need to increase your RPMs. So in my service, I'll use 5 bits from start to finish. Now, I've also talked to some people that use like 8. I'm not saying that's right or wrong. It just seems like a lot of start and finish where I would try to kind of bundle those things together. But it also depends. Is this a 60-minute manicure or is it a 3-hour? I love what I'm seeing right now on Instagram, how people are starting to post how long that they're doing like their art, just so people can see like, hey, I didn't do this in 20 minutes. Like I actually was with this client for 3 hours. And if there's any service that's costing you money, you gotta fix that. This is a business, not a charity. So I have my Boss Lady nippers here, and even though I've done some exfoliation, there's definitely a time and a place for cuticle nippers. So I'm just taking that sharp edge, and just where you see a little transparency, I'm not actually trying to like cut her proximal fold. I'm just that little piece of dead tissue. That's just what I'm nipping away. You're going to use the very tip of the blade and just nicely cut. You want to invest in good quality nippers. That way you don't have to pull. We get into problems when we start actually tearing the skin. So now that I've done my removal, my prep, my cuticle work, I'm going to take my Erica's Diamond Hand File, medium grit, and I'm going to start to shape my client's nails. So hand filing really is an art of its own. It's being able to look at both sides and to create an even nail. That's what I really like about our files is that they're not super bulky and thick where I'm tearing into the lateral fold. I'm able to get up underneath the nail and just nicely shape. So at this time, I like to flip my client's hand and actually start to look at it from a different angle. This is the angle that most likely my clients will be looking at their nails. So I just want to make sure that the tips are all the same shape. So I only apply 1 coat of primer. I've heard people say that if they have like a chronic lifter, they'll apply 2. You do want to wait 20 seconds for it to be able to dry, to get that tackiness. I'm applying a thin layer of primer to the entire nail, including the free edge. The Luminary Commit Primer just needs 20 seconds to air dry, meaning that it does not need to be cured in the light. We want it to set up and become tacky. Okay, so I'm a big fan of Luminary's Clarity. So I'm taking a very thin layer of my Clarity and building a typical base. So really thin, starting at the proximal and just pulling the product. Get as close as you can, but do not go underneath the proximal fold. That's when you get flooding and a hot mess. Just get as close as you can and then just pull it down. With Luminary, there is a heat spike, so just be conscientious of that. And if you need to start your client outside of the light, go for it. I applied my base, which was really thin, and let it cure for 60 seconds. So now I'm going to put my wetting layer. So what is this wetting layer? So there's a lot of terminology for like this wetting layer, but the whole idea of it, whether it's melting, wetting, mapping, is that the gel is going to be attracted to gel. So I find that using like a small detail brush, whatever your favorite detail brush is, just something with a thin line can really help grab the product and move it to the lateral fold. It can also help too. In a minute, I'm going to flip the nail over and let gravity do its thing so that it can start to build a natural apex. Once you've applied the product, then this is what you want to accomplish. So if you need to drag, this is when you're going to use your little detail brush, some gel, and just pull the product. Don't stab it, okay? Now also, just so you can think of your back, a lot of times I see technicians going like this, all right? Try to use a rolly chair and go out this way, keeping your back parallel. Then flip it back over. Let it self-level. If you don't like where that apex is, then just keep flipping it until you like the spot, okay? So shorter nails, you're going to probably build them up a little bit higher because short nails take a lot of impact, so they might look a little more bulby, but as they grow out, then you will be able to do a thinner apex. All right, looks great. And then in the light. Okay, so I am a big fan of pushing just to make sure that there's no product touching my little pocket. So I'm using the Luminary brush with my clear, my builder, and I'm just polishing like another base coat. So like this is considered like your mapping, your wetting. And the reason we're doing this is because after we've cured it, having that tacky layer, the gel's not gonna move the same way. So having that little wet, now I'm gonna pull down the product. And we're not polishing, but what I like to do here at this very end is, just depending on what your technique is to actually wipe at the free edge, not to float it at the bottom. I feel like when you float it at the bottom, that's when you get that little ski ramp. So if you find that you're getting that little ski ramp is just when you're about halfway down, just take the brush and actually pull the product. And don't try to get so close to the lateral fold. Yes, we do have the uh-oh bit for that, but the whole idea is to try to avoid any flooding, because then you're just chasing it. So working with one of the Luminary pods is really helpful, especially when you're using your liner brush. You're just looking for any like divots or area where you need to kind of refine and move product around so that it fills in the low point. Then flip it over, let gravity do its job. So just taking the liner brush and creating just a nice shape. Don't stab it, and make sure that there's gel on the brush. And this really just comes with finesse. Like right out of the gate, if you think it's going to be perfect, it's one of those things that you just have to practice, practice, practice. Once you have it, then get into the light. And here I am doing the last finger. For this size nail, it's about a pea size, as close as I can without flooding. Float, float, float. And then a nice pull. Make sure you cap that free edge, especially for your clients who might be hairdressers, bartenders, just people who are in water a lot or in chemicals. Really capping that free edge is important, right? It's all about efficiency. So while my client is in the light now for 60 seconds, I'm working on the other hand and just going back and forth, back and forth. So you and your client are never just idly sitting there, that you're always working and moving the service forward. Okay, so on this nail, I'm actually going to, on purpose, flood. All right, I'm just going to flood the nail where you get too much in the lateral fold. Happens all the time, but go figure when I want to do it. See how there's just too much product? I'm going to show you how we can clean that up. It's going to be way easier to do that now than after it's cured. So I'm going to take my cleaner brush with some acetone and just wipe that away. So this brush is a little bigger than I like, but it's what I have on hand. So again, my wetting layer, push that up as close as you feel comfortable. Pull it down. Make sure your fingers stabilize. Now I'm going to get my nice dollop. This is the thumb, so I'm a little bit more than normal. Yeah, I just took a little too much, but that's okay. I'm going to grab my detail brush. I'm not like just pulling it. So sometimes with the thumbs, they can be a bit tricky, and sometimes helping your client out just by holding the light so they can stick their hand underneath it. When you're putting their hand flat, sometimes that side isn't able to fully cure, and it'll create a headache for you when you go to apply the color. So one of the ways that you can tell if the gel is fully cured is by taking your metal cuticle pusher and just doing like a little clickety click. Yeah, hear that just a little chink, 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 chink. So keeping your client's hand like this, the thumb parallel, if I just had it in the light like this, that leaves a lot of time before the gel sets up and can actually flood the lateral fold. And since there's usually more product on when you're working with the thumb, is that we want to make sure we freeze it right where we've just sculpted everything. All right, after our full cure, we're going to go in with our color. So I like working towards the back of the nail just so I have a little bit of extra product that I'll tuck under the fold, and I'm just pulling it down. So depending on the type of brush and product that you're working with, you're going to adjust the pressure to your brush, like to the bristles. If it starts to become like really streaky and stuff, that's when I apply less pressure. I want to make sure that this coat is really thin. And I have noticed that some gel colors work better with Luminary than others. Some of it you might find it's pulling it away. So just kind of be conscientious of that. And that's also why we do multiple layers. So we made that pocket for this purpose. Not only does it look aesthetically pleasing, but also this is where you're gonna tuck the color so that you have a nice uniform shape. Just take your detail brush with a little bit of product and just nicely go underneath the proximal fold. Just tighten up that lateral fold so that it just grows out looking very beautiful and well tucked. We're going to go in with a second coat as close as I can, just kind of dozing it back. So my client has a wider nail bed, so I personally like not taking the color so deep into her lateral fold to make her nail just look skinnier. Usually she looks like she has more duck nails just naturally. They really kind of flare out at the edge. So I'm just kind of creating that illusion with the color that it looks more, it just looks more narrow. So Luminary does have their own top and matte coat. I tend to like working with the top coats of the color in which I've used. There's no rhyme or reason, it's just the way I do things. Since I used an Akzentz color, I'm going to use an Akzentz top coat. I just do one coat. The Shine-On does not need to be wiped off. I'm going to do all 5 fingers and then put her in the light. Oh, the nails look beautiful, but they're not finished quite yet. So I'm going to take my Luminary oil and I'm going to rub it all over my client's hands. So this is actually an upgrade. Usually I just use this on the cuticle bits to soften everything, but when I'm doing a whole hand exfoliation, I'm going to rub the oil all over my client's hand, on the palm, the top, and between the fingers, and you're about to see the magic I'm going to work. So see how her hand's like shiny, but it's not like dripping wet. It's still a little on the wetter side. So because Luminary is a very quick absorbing oil, you might have to put more on depending on how dry your client is. So what's also great is this works on clients with eczema. Can be used on pretty much any type of skin, whether it is an elderly person with thinner skin or somebody that has really thick calluses. But this is this is the money shot. This is it. This is what we're doing over the entire hand. So if you're introducing this into your service, usually doing one complimentary, and that way they can feel the difference. And the next time we've heard anyone charging between $7 to $15 as an upcharge, because you're literally taking the product and the ball bit over the entire hand. I don't know what's more satisfying, the pimple popper or this. Definitely this. So we need to come up with a cute name for this. I think really it's a hand exfoliation. So this is usually what I do with the cuticles, but instead of just doing it on the cuticles, I'm working in between the knuckles and really just softening the hands. You could even put this as part of like an anti-aging treatment with some kind of like mask. We want to do everything dry, but once we've already applied the product, this is when we can continue to work the magic. So the E-file's in the forward direction. I'm running at 28,000 RPMs. Just get in between all of her cracks. Sloughing. Yes, what's also really nice about using the polisher a bit with the oil is if you have a client who does like self-tanning creams and they kind of have that bronzy, that orangey color, just some of that excess dye, this will actually work it out as well. We do the same thing too with those who are smokers with nicotine. I love working with structured gel. If you guys have any questions, feel free to write them in the comment. I look forward to hearing from you. For more content like this, please like and subscribe so that I can continue to bring you awesome education.